We're recording?
Now.
Okay. Well, I know this was not an old chestnut favorite like Moonstruck, but I was trying to drag us from the 20th century to the 21st century. And, I didn't know, like I told you, I had never seen the movie, didn't know much about it, other than I knew that it had won almost every award at every film festival it entered, and was made for $15 million and grossed $400 million, won an Academy Award, and was, named one of the British Film Institute's top 10 films of all time for children, fourth best film of the 20th century up to that point by the BBC, named the second best film of the 21st century by the New York Times. So it had all these awards and all this money, and I thought, well, it's anime, and I don't know that much about anime other than I know it's a big deal, and my grandkids are. So I try not to get too far behind. So thank you for indulging me and letting me propose this one. It's been compared to Alice in Wonderland and the Wizard of Oz because it's centered around an uprooted teenager who enters some sort of fantasy world where, like in Dorothy's case, tin men and scarecrows and lions talk, and or Cheshire cats or pieces on a chessboard. And the idea, trying to read into what the filmmaker I think was trying to do and read what other people have tried to explain what they think he was trying to do, was to give people a sense of what it's like when you go from a little kid and the world around you is very predictable, and then you go into adulthood, and it's very, it's predictable in a different way, but there's a space in there where things are unpredictable and uncertain. And that's what happens to her, as she is going from a neighborhood she knows into a school and a world she doesn't know. And she does that through this abandoned amusement park, and is confronted by all these Shinto characters who morph into different things, which just adds to the uncertainty. And then there are commentators who have talked about how it's not only a commentary on Japanese and Asian culture, but and a coming of age of a teenager, but that Japan had gone, and the idea that her parents turn into these pigs who are overeating is a commentary on Japanese culture since World War II, where the place was very Americanized and consumerism and capitalism sort of pushed aside Buddhism and Shintoism, and it's sort of a call to the past. Plus, if you know anything about Shinto is almost like an environmental religion, similar to the Native Americans or pagans, where it's believed that every living thing, a tree, a cloud, a weed, or something, has a spirit to it, and those spirits can change forms. And so it's kind of this overwhelming, it's animated, beautifully animated. It's a story of this gal going through this, this world, and all these different spirits changing forms to help her get from one into the other. So, it's not like anything I've ever seen before. And I hope you enjoyed it, or at least put up with it. Some see the film as an exploration, as I said, of the effects of greediness and Western consumerism. So in the end, it's a coming of age film, a hand-drawn masterpiece, most consider one of the best hand-drawn movies ever made, a nod to environmentalism, and maybe best of all, commentary on consumerism versus spiritualism that turned a $15 million investment into a $400 million blockbuster. So there you go. There's your, I don't know if consumerism won or spiritualism won, but they're all on display there. So it was hard. It was hard for me to follow and keep up with, and I had to rewind and watch things a couple times to make sure I made sense of all the forms that were taking shape and the challenge that she was overcoming, and her change in attitude towards different characters as the movie progressed. But I'm now I feel like I at least understand a little bit of anime. I understand a little bit of why this was a $400 million blockbuster.
Was it your decision to select anime as the genre, and then researching that you came upon this movie, which won all the awards and made all the money that you spoke of, or had you already zeroed in on this particular movie? What came
Popped up.
first?
It popped up as the highest grossing Japanese film of all time for a while. It popped up on a couple lists as the highest ranking hand-drawn animated film of all kind. So it checked a bunch of boxes of well, here's a movie I've never heard of, I've never seen. It won all these awards, it made all this money, it touched all these cultural bases, and it seemed like it'd be worth 2 hours of my time to figure out what all the fuss is about.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure which came first, Pete, the idea that it was anime, or that it was a blockbuster, or that it touched on Japanese culture and Shintoism and Buddhism versus capitalism. But it just kept popping up on things, and I thought, well, I'll watch it and I'll drag my film buddies along with me for the ride.
The animation was phenomenal. My wife and I watched it today, and the animation was just incredible. A lot of the scenes in there just don't strike me as being for real young minds, though. There's some pretty graphic stuff, a lot of vomiting.
Vomiting, yeah.
Kids like
So,
that.
but yeah, it was interesting.
Not a lot of blood, but a lot of regurgitation.
Yeah.
Well, weren't there kids shows where they, putting glue and gunk all over each other was a lot of fun on Saturday morning. I don't know.
Sure.
It comes from that.
Nickelodeon.
One thing I thought was interesting, Whit, and I did really enjoy this. As old as Japanese culture is, the evil twin archetype is in here, and that I don't know where that came from, but boy, that's been around a long time. I mean, Shakespeare on up,
Grandma and her sister.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And one's always nice, the nice witch and the evil witch. There's always the
Wizard of Oz.
right sisters there, but in this case it was twins. Where you can't really tell them apart right away.
And I've read several reviews and some about the movie, and it talks about the animation, and we did here. It's just so different from Disney Studios animation. It's much more like a comic book. It's just different. I mean,
yeah, it's not Pixar.
yeah, and I know he's given credit for hand drawing so many of the gels, I guess, in the movie, but it was just different, and I don't know even now whether I liked it or not. That animation, I like the story, but I also didn't understand. Somebody said this earlier. The story, you had to kind of, well, you did, Whit. You had to kind of go back and figure out, okay, well, I thought she walked into that room, the amusement park or the bathhouse one time, and they all said they smelled humans, and all of a sudden she's everybody's friend. And I was trying to figure out where'd that happen? What went on there? So some of it moved pretty quick, but I liked the part that she matured. She grew into herself over the course of the movie. So that was good.
She was
We
number
knew
some
you
of
were
their
going to come
food.
up with a movie about character arcs, so you kind of tipped us off there.
Well, I wasn't sure there was a character arc, but I think there was. But and more than one character changed their spots during the movie.
Yeah, what about the big fat baby who turned out to be an okay guy in the end?
Hi, Donna.
Hey, hi, sorry. I fell
Kick Randy's
asleep.
butt.
You fell asleep?
I fell asleep and I was like, oh, I longer than I thought I would.
That's all right. It's 8 o'clock there. So
Yeah.
We lost Pete.
Yeah, we lost Pete.
Uh-oh.
Was
Yeah, I really,
There he is.
I didn't even have to bring him in. He just came right back in. I just definitely targeted towards little girls, the brave little girl. And I asked my 5-year-old granddaughter, I said, have you ever seen Spirited Away? And she said, oh yeah, I've seen it. I said,
Really?
I said, that's good. I go, what happened? She goes, well, the parents, they turned into pigs. And I go, yeah, she's definitely seen it,
that's what she remembers.
Yeah, but I think it was long for her, but I think she liked it. She remembered details of the movie and all, but it was definitely targeted, to Japanese little girls, but American too. I mean, all little girls.
Yesterday afternoon, I was at Fidel's cigar store in Westport after a meeting, and I went in to have a cigar, and the heavily tattooed sales clerk was very familiar with this movie, for whatever that's worth.
Really?
Yep.
I
and a lot
really
of
like.
anime.
How in the world did this movie come up in the cigar store?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, really.
I was proudly talking about the League of Unpaid Film Critics, of course. And then she wanted to know what movie were we discussing tonight. I told her.
We're discussing a movie targeted at 14-year-old girls.
Yeah, that could
Why'd
get
she
you
ask
in
me to
trouble,
leave?
guys.
I'm not sure I want this on YouTube.
I don't think so. This could get yeah, this could get you in trouble. I really liked it, of course. But you know what I thought from probably, I don't know, maybe by the half of it, I would have loved to seen this as a live action as opposed to animated. I was thinking, the little 12, 14-year-old girl, parents, and all the CGI stuff that could happen. I don't know. I just had this vision of it would be even better if it was like a live action as opposed to animated.
Well, there's a musical, or I don't know, I don't think it's a musical necessarily, but there's a stage production of it.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I could see it as soon as I was watching it. Yeah.
And if you
I
think
really
about,
enjoyed it.
think of something about Lion King, where all the characters are these exaggerated, giant puppets. That's what the stage production looks like. And all these characters, I mean, you could Google Spirited Away, play, or it aired, or I just found it today. It had a run in the spring of this year in Chicago or somewhere. I don't know if it's got any legs, but it's not, it's not a live action movie, but it's a live action play.
Yeah. Well, I could see it when I went, oh God, this would be so good if it were, at least it seemed to me it would be good that way.
Did you
I
watch
think I like it better as a piece of animation than live action with CG. I think that gave him a lot more creativity, and far fewer boundaries. But that's just
Did you watch the Japanese language version? That's just what came up for me. But.
No, I watched an English.
It was dubbed in
Yeah, it
English.
was dubbed.
Yeah.
Mine was.
And apparently the English language team that dubbed it looked at the animated mouth movements and matched the language as closely as they could. They found English words that would be spoken in a way that the Japanese words were spoken. So they just didn't, go word for word Japanese language to English language. they made some modifications so that it tracked and appeared natural coming out of the characters' mouths. So I thought that was, interesting.
I noticed that.
That was part of the $50 million budget or not.
I was interested in, well, first, I really wish I knew a Japanese person who could interpret the cultural things that I'm sure I missed, because I'm sure there's symbols and there are lots of things that were characteristic of Japanese culture that I have no clue about. So
Like
I
the
think that would
character
have
behind you.
added to.
Me too.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
character behind you is a good example. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the art on some of the things like Granny's face was very detailed. There was a lot of, like, behind Mike, there's all this detail about her, but if you look at the heroine, the young girl, her face has almost no features. And the boy that she was hanging around with had a pointy nose, but there were almost no features there. But at the same time, the graphic art of the whole thing was extremely good, like the clouds behind them on the train, or the water effects as the train was running. It was amazing. It was spectacular. And at the same time, they don't really spend a lot of time, or maybe on purpose, don't want to create a lot of feature in the main characters.
Yeah,
I thought that was, I don't understand it entirely.
What those three heads were. I mean, they kept reappearing and turning into something else. And I didn't know if that was a thing.
And I didn't catch it, but apparently the dad is wearing some modern fashions. They are driving an Audi. There are lots of things that imply these people are they've been caught up in Western consumerism, and it's not surprising that they would turn into overindulging pigs. That's where they were.
Yeah.
Well, their looks were Western in nature.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
And the two and the grandma feature, the character, her whole salon is very European, highly decorated, not Japanese simplistic at all.
Right.
So there's apparently a lot more going on here, Jeff. Like, I'm with you. I wish I had somebody to interpret not only the words, but the scenes and the symbols and the characters, because I'm sure there was lots and lots more going on than was obvious to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of those guys behind Pete look like they came out of Casablanca.
Yeah. Yeah.
They do.
I also like the recurring theme of love. Love will solve most of these problems, according to the nice witch.
Yeah.
And the little girl was always, no matter who it was, the guy that looked like a spider or whatever, come on, come with me, hold my hand, I'll take you. I thought that was a good part.
Yes, she gave every character the benefit of the doubt, and gave them the chance to do good.
Mm-hmm.
That was admirable. Yeah.
And the six-armed guy up in the
in the
boiler master.
In the boiler room,
yeah.
Yeah, had two legs too.
Yeah.
Maybe he's an arachnid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, does it make him a spider or a bug?
Yeah.
and not really a Japanese goatee either.
No.
That guy.
No.
So what do you think the filmmaker was trying to accomplish?
I think it was. I think the coming of age theme is real prominent. I also think there's more than one scene in there that talks about consumerism and environmentalism. And those are the three things that jumped out at me. That he had sort of a trick going.
I was in Japan for about 6 weeks only, so I just know a little bit. But what I remembered back then was that the women were subservient, if I can use that term. They were, and this is okay. So this has to be in the late 80s. So it's quite a while ago. But the women I remember being subservient. At the same time, they were the smart ones. The women were so much smarter than, in my opinion, so much smarter than men, and had so much more
Wait a minute.
curiosity. I know you're going to say, wait,
Where's this going?
Yeah. Turn this down.
Cut
well,
off the recording.
yeah,
Okay.
turn it off, turn it off. But here's the thing, it's at least back then, it was company men, and the men would go to work every day. They'd wear their blue suit, their skinny tie, their buck teeth, their glasses, and greasy hair. That's what I remember. And
Well,
they
that was-
all went to work.
That was
I know,
the
that's
height of
terrible.
the-
I
that was-
know, mea culpa, mea culpa. I'm sorry, but
That was
this
the
is what
height
I
of the
remember.
Japanese manufacturing dominance. I mean, they were killing the world.
They were. And
they were
but the
killing
women,
themselves.
there were
Yeah.
no women. And when I actually worked at kind of some of these places, and the women would serve tea, that's what their job was, to serve tea. However, the women were the ones that went to the theater. The women were the ones that had all the curiosity. The men would go after work, and this was at that time, I don't know now, at that time, it was considered manly to go out with your boss after work and get drunk. And all the men were drunk. You would walk down the street and see men, puking
Yeah.
their guts out.
We
And
saw Bill Murray.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. And women would be, there'd be some beautiful Japanese woman kind of patting him on the back as he's puking his guts out. Now, the thing that got me was the woman I was staying with, who was not a typical Japanese woman, but she didn't like men that didn't drink. She didn't think that manliness, you couldn't be a manly man, unless you drank. It was like this thing. So all the men drink and got drunk, and all the women, it seemed to me, were the smart ones and the fun ones, and the just curious, just more curious. And at that time, I could see that the women were smarter. I don't know how else smarter than the men. Or let me put it this way: the women that were married out of I think at that time they got married because their parents got them together, arranged marriages. And the word love wasn't ever really used, at least back then. You respected your wife and all that, but love really just didn't come into the conversation, or even, it wasn't like that. You respected your wife, but love wasn't that. Love just didn't seem to be that big of a thing. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but that was my impression. Again, that, a gringa, or a American woman
And how
trying
long
to figure it out.
How long
Did you
ago? How long ago?
That was the late 80s.
Did you see
So-
threads of that in this movie?
Well, what I saw in this movie was the fact that the women, and that was my sense of it back then, is that the women were going to become stronger in the community. And that's what I saw in this, is this scared little girl that comes of her own. And yes, it was that woman that actually recognizes that she doesn't have to be taken care of, that she's, her own self, and she's pretty strong. And that was my sense of these women way back then. They were so much more than what men were giving them, what men thought they were, So it was really good to see it. Because when I was there, every time, and of course, I like to laugh and have a good time. And every time the woman would laugh, they would put their hands over their mouth, because it was impolite to show your teeth, for women to show their teeth. So every time they laughed, they'd be covering their, their mouth and all that. And I thought, And I remember thinking at the time, wow, these women can't really be themselves, but
Well, maybe that was somewhat the intent of the movie, was to try to, maybe, I don't know, I don't know this, but maybe the Japanese culture recognizes that little girls need more
Yeah.
role models that are brave.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
this movie might have been a response to what you're saying. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Well,
When
she
did this
started
movie come
off
out?
being kind of whiny and scared, and
2001, Pete.
Oh, one.
2001. Yeah. And there are little things to like. I like the train that's tracks are underwater. I want to
Oh,
be
yeah.
on that train. I don't know
It's
why.
like a channel.
I don't know why that struck me.
Why did they have to do that? What was that saying? I couldn't figure that out. I mean, it didn't have to be underwater. It could have been on.
The monsoons came and it filled up and made it a little more
I
difficult.
mean, that was the whole thing about the river went away and became this giant ocean when her parents turned into pigs and she had to run back.
Yeah, well, yeah, but if that were the case, then why was the train able to run? If its tracks were submerged.
Don't be going there, man. Now, it's a movie.
It's not an engineering movie.
At the end of the movie, Mike, to your point about the environmental aspect, at the end of the movie, when she's with the spirit of the river, and it's where the river was now this grassy field. There was a discussion about the river was gone because they put apartment or something in there, right? I mean, so commerce or whatever, consumerism or capitalism actually resulted in the demise of this river, if I understood the tail end of the movie correctly.
Yeah, when
least
the
that's
river
what I-
spirit first shows up, there's like all sorts of junk.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it was different. It's not a movie I
Was?
would have picked out, but
It's not Moonstruck, I told you.
I know, but I'm glad to have seen it. I mean, it's not even a genre I would have ever
Me
thought
neither.
about.
Me neither.
Yeah.
But I figure we could check that box and go,
Yeah.
yes, we've seen
Okay.
the world's greatest anime movie ever. And
Did
And
anybody think it was a bit too long?
Yeah.
it was even longer. It originally was 3 hours.
Oh my God.
Is that normal?
See, I thought the plot not
agree.
ran out of steam, but
I agree.
at 90 minutes, they could have completed a full story.
Well, there were so
Mhm.
many different characters changing form, and you couldn't
Yeah.
tell who was on what side. That's why I had to stop and go back. Okay, let's reset the lineup, make sure I am following all this. I had a hard time
Also,
keeping track.
also lots of rules. It was like, okay, now you're to make sure no one smells you because they'll see that you're a human and they'll turn you into a pig. And then the next thing it's something else. Keeping track of all the rules of the different universes she was crawling through kind of added up after a while to me.
I like
as
your
long as
t-shirt, Sanders.
What's that?
I like your
This is from-
t-shirt.
Oh, you like it? Yeah, it's
I
not quite
have-
July 19th yet, but I thought, what the hell? It's almost.
I have
July.
one like it. Yeah.
So I was curious, Jeff, you said you watched the Japanese version. Was it 3 hours long?
No, it was just over 2 hours. It was just
No.
subtitled.
No, they never released the 3-hour version. When he first laid it out, it was going to be 3 hours, and he went back and chopped and cut and minimalized, and he never released a director's cut. So, Jeff, you watched a subtitled version?
Yeah, that's just what came up when I put it into Amazon Prime. So I didn't know any difference.
So, did you have a hard time reading the movie?
Oh, no, it's fine. I mean, it kept me engaged. I mean, I usually, like Mike said, the 2 hour plus movies, they get a little long, but I was engaged the whole time. So
Has anybody else started subtitling everything?
Yes,
Yes.
I do.
I do.
No.
I saw it.
I started doing because some of the British accents in Ted Lasso were so thick I couldn't follow it. Then I realized I was missing half the jokes.
Yes.
Ted Lasso.
I that's what I think. Well, Roland, because Roland, my husband, is hard of hearing, we've always had, the closed captioning on. And what I find is that, that you miss a lot, and it's kind of like hearing the script, for lack of a better term. It's like you're seeing you miss a lot, I think, in so many that I use it almost all the time now. And I really like it.
I think there was an article in a Wall Street Journal recently that this is a thing now, that it was something like, why is everybody having the captions on? So we're not unique in this, but I think the captioning is better than it used to be too. It's fairly accurate. Sometimes some of the old ones were kind of like voice recognition, and they were not very great. But,
That's right.
Yeah.
So just a little note here on these recordings on YouTube. If you go down and turn the captions on, our YouTube recordings are
captions also. Good.
If you have a hard time understanding what Gary's saying, you could just go down there.
You know what else we could do, which I thought was pretty funny? You can summarize our YouTube. There's that summarize button.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and it uses a chat GPT. So they can summarize our thing. They get it not right at all because we're all going in different directions, at least the ones I've seen.
Is that the button that you hit down there? Or?
Yeah, that one. It says summarize. I think it's in orange on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Oh.
Huh.
Yeah. And you just hit summarize, and then it'll kind of summarize our thing here. However,
and then hit print, Whitaker, and you're done.
Yeah.
I also like the word cloud, where we can go back and look and see what topics dominated the conversation.
Where did you get that from?
The word cloud?
Yeah.
Oh, it was like text to word cloud, some app, and you can make them in different shapes and forms. You can make them in the form of a mushroom cloud if you want.
Is there a switch where our YouTube video where we're talking in Japanese?
Probably.
That's probably sure. Probably.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. We could have a worldwide audience.
We start World War III.
We'd be up to 7 viewers.
Well, there's 10 of us, so there's not even all 10 of us watching our own video.
No.
Yeah, I know.
I think our most popular one is the Big Lebowski.
Oh yeah,
it's got the
yeah?
most viewers.
Oh,
Got
that's
eight.
funny.
And the two kids from Japan that would watch this one in particular would get grounded for it afterwards.
the League of Pedophilia, I think, might be. You watched a movie about a 10-year-old Japanese girl coming of age. Interesting.
And everybody smile big, man. That everybody knows that's a joke.
I'm glad some of you guys got your last names on your.
I was just
That's right.
thinking about that. I was just thinking about that just now.
Pete, that Irish board that you just joined, we've got bad news for you. We're not going to need you.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So what else has everybody watched? Bill, you got anything you want to recommend?
No, I'm not really.
Are you next?
I am next. Oh, you mean for what we're doing?
Extra credit or the main event, either one.
I can if we're ready.
Sure.
Sure.
The movie I'm picking for the over 2-week break is I think it's a 1969 movie called Easy Rider.
Oh
I've heard
my
of that. I've
God.
heard of that.
Yeah,
Where's
me
that
too.
available?
Oh, it's available, on TV. I think I did look it up. I think it was
It's
it
available.
was not Prime. I think it was, Prime for sure.
Prime,
Okay. All
Prime.
right.
Yeah.
I'm looking now. Yeah, Prime.
And like Patty was she was talking about a friend told her that we should watch Dogma, and I said, oh, I've seen it.
Watch what?
What?
Dogma. And so I mean,
Watch
I'm just saying Dogma because
Dogma.
yeah, I'm just saying that because I went to YouTube and it was on there for free. So I mean, you should check places like that regardless, because Easy Rider could possibly be on there for free.
That could be on the library ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it could be. So I don't think it's a particularly long movie, is it? I think it's like
I don't think so.
I don't remember.
I watched it about a year or so ago, and I think it was on Prime back then for part of your subscription.
My guess is that's one of those that it cost 5 million and made 50 million. It
Yeah.
was a shoestring movie that just blew up.
It's an hour 35, hour 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it won any Academy Awards, but it was sure a cult favorite, right?
Oh my
That's
gosh,
right.
yeah.
I think it ran in every drive-in for about 10 years after that.
Mhm.
I think you're right.
Right.
I like the scene from Lost in America where the bikers go by.
Where
Hey,
it flips him off. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
what else you seen, Bill? Anything?
No, not really. I've been watching Righteous Gemstones.
You watch what?
Righteous Gemstones.
Oh yeah. Is that good?
Oh yeah. It is for me. I don't, I'm not sure I know Pete's been watching it. I think he
Yeah.
has.
I haven't started this season yet, but I really enjoyed it. Yes.
It's interesting, especially if you like what's his name, Pete, the writer.
Oh, Danny McBride,
Yeah, if you like Danny McBride's
Yeah.
kind of humor.
John Goodman's in it. I mean, yeah, it's a great cast.
Uh-huh.
Good.
So it's pretty good, but Patty was reminding me, I did watch the Jimmy Carter Rock and Roll President that has been on our list for a long time, and it is excellent if you haven't ever seen it, or even if you wanted to see it again. It just is really interesting. Mike was up, Matson, he was up this weekend, and we talked about it a little bit, and he said a lot of the same themes go through the Carter library.
Well, not the library, but the visitor center in Plains, which is his old high school. It's got all sorts of Allman Brothers stuff in it.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing that a president of the United States had such a connection with all these different bands of that era.
You mean like Ted Nugent?
I don't think he had a Ted Nugent in there.
So close.
Ted introduced Trump down in Texas this week.
That was real good, though. I mean, once I started that, I had to see it through. It was really good.
Yeah,
Was
I
that
liked it too. It's good.
what was the Jimmy Carter movie a pick or just a recommendation? Because
It's just
I know it's come up.
Yeah, it's just recommendation.
It was a recommendation, but it would make a good pick for sure. Be a good one to spend an hour talking about. I don't know if there's ever been a president anywhere near that close to having ties with different groups, and I mean his tie with Bob Dylan, that's amazing.
Yep.
It's not that much different than Hollywood's ties with Jack Kennedy and with Broadway. Kennedy had attracted a lot of show business people, and he was drawn to them as well. But I mean, that was Rat Pack era stuff, and certainly not rock and roll like Carter and the Allman Brothers and Bob Dylan and
It was American Graffiti time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly the same years.
But the thing about Carter, it just seems so organic. I mean, he truly loved these bands and groups that would come in and support him and all that. And I think Kennedy might have done a lot of that Hollywood stuff to promote his image and things like that.
Or have a weekend at Camp David.
Yeah. Or
Mahoney,
maybe
you got anything?
No,
Well, think about it. Now, do you have
My
anything?
wife and I watched, I'm not recommending this, in fact, this is an anti-recommendation, Cocaine Bear. We watched Cocaine Bear
Oh.
just to get it out of the way. And I don't, and I paid
Yeah, I
$2
still-
dollars on Prime for it, $5.99 instead of $3.99 on Prime.
I still haven't watched it. I
Don't
I
wait,
can't.
don't waste
bother.
your time. We are
Well,
watching two series. I hesitate recommending series because we all got a lot going on, but based on a true story with Kelly Cuoco on, I think Max was pretty entertaining. And
What was it called again, Pete?
it's called Based on a True Story, and it's a
Oh
it's a
yeah,
series
yeah.
on Max, HBO Max, or just Max, I guess, as it's called now. And then on Apple TV, a series called Platonic with Seth Rogen and I think
Oh,
James
yeah.
Byrne. Pretty damn funny. Pretty funny.
Yeah, I
So-
did start to watch that. That is pretty funny.
Yeah.
The
Has anybody
Platonic.
watched the Harrison Ford series, new series,
Oh, you shrinking?
Shrinking?
Drinking?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's-
that's
it's
good. That's good.
Very
I
good.
think that was a recommendation a while back.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I watched and of course I can't remember the name of it. It was like a sports. It was all about tennis, but more on the on the psychological things that these kids and women and men go through when they win and when they lose and all that stuff. And it was actually it really got me how these, I mean, the professional athletes are intense anyway, but boy, the emotions and running rampant with the men as well as the women. Oh, so it was pretty good. That was good. And I'm still watching Black Mirror, and I'm still getting such a kick out of it. I really liked it so far, all of them.
What's it called, Donna?
Black Mirror.
It's like
And the
the
good
third
thing-
or fourth season, right?
Well, it's
the
It
each-
modern
stopped.
Twilight Zone.
it's not it's got a lot of seasons, but each episode is self-contained.
Right.
So you can
Yeah.
watch one and you don't have to watch, that's one story after another story, and which I like. So I don't end up binge watching until 4 a.m. I can watch one and see the end of it. So that's why I'm enjoying that a lot.
That's what I liked about the real McCoys. I mean, you could just watch one and didn't have to.
That's right.
And Pepina wouldn't even be in the next one.
Yeah. Peanut and little Luke. Yeah.
but he was always on your mind.
What? See what?
I have an unrecommendation. We ended up watching a movie last night with Jason Sudeikis. Is that his name?
Yeah.
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 And
He's usually good.
and it's fun to watch and see because you know what's coming in his career. And Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, the RV movie?
Meet the Millers.
It's called
Meet
Meet
the
the
Millers.
Millers. Meet the
Yeah.
Millers.
No, I've seen that.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Not good, huh?
I can't
I've
get
got
those.
a- great.
a non-recommendation.
The,
Huh?
Yeah.
the premise is great, but the movie just doesn't pull off anything.
No.
Somebody's cashing checks on that one.
Yeah.
I've got one to avoid. I tried to watch Avatar: The Way of Water.
Oh yeah. And you couldn't.
I made it through half. It's 3 hours and 15 minutes long, and I made it about 90 minutes. But it was still going nowhere. You know, I went to the first Avatar movie with my grandson when he was about 8 or 9 years old, and it was 3D IMAX. So, you know, it was just incredible to watch, but the plot kind of suffered and all that. You could see this movie at the theater when it was out on IMAX, and all the reviews were it's just absolutely stunning in 3D. But when it's not in 3D and you're just watching
Yeah.
them go through it all, usually I can make it on through a movie, even though I know it's not any good, but I couldn't do it without it. It's too long.
Huh.
But the one
Yeah,
I do want to recommend is for Mad Men only, the stories of Del Close.
Oh,
Seen it?
yes, yes.
Have you
That's,
seen that?
well, I actually did a couple of classes at Second City.
Oh, okay. Well, this guy was
yeah.
the brains behind improv. He's the
Yeah.
guru of improv.
Yeah.
Crazy as a bat or
Mhm.
whatever. Loony as
Yeah.
all get out. But
Yeah.
it was pretty entertaining. It's on Hulu with a subscription. And then while we were talking about seasons and series, The Bear is back on
Yeah, I saw
season
that.
2.
It started back up.
And so I've started following that one again. I thought that was a fun one the first time around. So,
Okay.
and then for what it's worth, the Del Close story is hour and a half documentary, which also includes he did a comic book of his life and all of his stories, which kind of reminded me of all this anime that we were watching.
There you go.
Huh.
Tying it all back up.
Yeah,
There you go.
right. Full circle.
Anybody else? The two Jeffs, King Arthur and Dr. Jeff.
I've been watching the College World Series.
Yeah.
Now, Steve
So my
Spurrier
husband-
is coaching the baseball team. They scored 3 touchdowns yesterday on the.
24-3.
My God.
Been
King
watching
Jeff?
the new Star Trek a little bit.
You've been watching the new Star Trek?
Yeah.
The
It's a new one.
young Spock? Is that
Yeah, there is.
It's like
But
called Strange New Worlds.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Are you all caught up with that?
And
Is it good, Jeff?
no, it's okay. I mean, it's Zebulon Pike is the captain, and
Yeah.
there's a
So it's-
Vulcan, and so it's got. But obviously, the graphics and everything are modern.
There's a Vulcan. His name is Spock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that on Apple? Or
I
somewhere
don't
Um,
else?
know what it's on.
I'm not
You
sure where
know-
it is.
Or Paramount, maybe?
Yeah,
It-
I think it is.
If you do, if you guys are any Trekkies, again, the Black Mirror, as I said, they're self-contained, and there is one of a guy that is a Trekkie and using AI, artificial intelligence, he's kind of the head of a computer company, and he gets everybody to go kind of back in time and become the characters on Star Trek. I thought it was really funny and interesting, and it's kind of a horror thing as well. But it's one of them. I don't know what I don't even remember what it was called. It's all in the office, the guy is meek and mild, and when he goes into this AI environment that he's created, he's Captain. Well, they don't call him Captain Kirk, but he's Captain Kirk, and he's got the uniform and the bridge and all that stuff. So it's kind of interesting. You might find it fun or interesting.
It's Jesse
Jeff.
Plemons plays that guy, right? Jesse Plemons from lots of things. You guys know who Jesse Plemons is, right?
I know the
I
name.
know.
What did he do?
Yeah, he was in
Breaking
the
Bad. Breaking
He was
Bad.
in Love and Death just recently on
Yeah,
He was in The Irishman.
yeah.
and what's
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
the feel of the dog, the sound of the dog, the
Yeah.
Something of the
bark
dog.
of the dog.
Yeah.
Hey, what I wanted to ask you what you thought of the baby Viking camp.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. What
Something we
was
might need
that?
to think about. Yeah. Step things up.
That's
That was
all
all
AI.
AI.
I don't know if you noticed that, but this
Yeah.
guy, I sent this to Whitaker. I'll send it to everybody. When he was talking about Camp Wicked GG was over and another one's in the books and everybody had a great time, which I'm sure they did. Somebody had just sent me this baby camp for Vikings, and it shows all these kids with helmets on, screaming and swinging axes and stuff.
Broadswords.
But anyway, this guy that does AI always. It was all AI. Every bit of it was AI. But when at first glance, it just grabs you.
Wow, that's funny.
So
Do
2
they
weeks,
invade North England?
I don't know. I didn't get the guy had a whole write up though. I mean, it was like a PR piece that, your child too can learn about world history as well as conflict in Northern Europe. And, it just went on and on.
Oh my God.
Follow that guy. He's got all kinds of baby camps and different kinds of things he's doing.
Sounds good.
Wow.
All right.
But anyway, 2 weeks away before we see each other again, huh?
All right.
Go 2 weeks.
Yeah, have a good
Is
fourth.
anybody going to be doing
Yes.
drugs on the 4th of July? That's what I have to do with my dogs.
You have to do
You're
drugs.
doing
your
drugs with your
Are we
dogs?
still
Well,
recording?
they do downers.
That took an
and so,
interesting
hey,
twist at the end, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure
Yeah.
is.
Sympathy drugs.
Legal.
Me
drugs.
droogies.
Oh, there you go. How did everybody
Jerkies.
like Terry's
That was
report?
nice.
That
That
was
took
Yeah,
a little
cool.
while. Wow.
Yeah, Terry was pretty happy about that report at the.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
It was clever. It was
It
very
was
clever.
very clever. Very clever.
I don't know what our fans, the 8 people that follow us, I don't know what they're going to get out of it. But
They
they
have to
get
go to
these
glossary.
Do they
Yeah.
get these follow-up reports?
No, I mean,
I don't think so.
Is that part of your YouTube subscription to our videos?
eh,
I guess we should throw that in there somewhere.
oh, yeah,
like
we should.
In the last part of it or something before you say goodbye, throw
Do a
out-
thumbs up and subscribe.
Oh, there you go.
Click here.
Now, is there a point when you start making money on these? If we could get people to watch it, like our kids and stuff, like
I'm not
Nah.
gonna.
or something.
Nah,
Once your
I'm
numbers
not going to
get-
put anybody through this.
Once you get up to about 50,000 views, then you start making money. That's what I hear.
Yeah.
We're so
It's-
close.
Pay,
So close.
Yeah. And so we got a little ways to go there, Bill, but
We're on the
we
cusp.
could pay for your Zoom subscription.
Well,
There you
maybe
go.
we could get Bud Light to sponsor it because
Oh, God.
I gotta go somewhere.
they need a lift.
Yeah, they do. They do.
All right, kids.
Imagine
All
you,
right.
you make the entry on that Bud Light thing and as a Bush Beer guy, I'll back you up on it, all right?
All right.
All right.
Well, everybody,
Alright.
have a
Me
great.
and Dylan
Fourth of July.
Maroney are going for it.
There you go. See ya.
Happy
A
4th.
couple weeks.
Have a
Happy
good
4th,
one.
everybody.
Thanks,
Couple
Bill.
weeks.
Bill,
See yous
tell Patty
later.
thanks again.
Yeah.
later.
Okay. Bye.
Jeff, good to see you back.